Hey folks, it's Bill with Bug Out Bungalows, and I said I'd tell a Bigfoot story after my last video. If I got some thumbs up, which I did, so I'll go ahead and tell my story. So the reason I brought it up in that video is that's where it took place. So I had a small cabin up there, a plywood cabin at the time, and there's a lot of weird experiences up there. So first I'll tell you where it is. It's above Sacramento, up Highway 80, east of Colfax, an area called Cape Horn. Now, Cape Horn was famous in 1800s when they built the Transcontinental Railway as one of the hardest parts to get by. And so they used to have a spectacular view, and they'd actually stop the trains there so people could check in the view and everything. And it's famous, or actually notorious, for the number of Chinese that died helping to build that one particular section. Now I didn't know this at the time, but my neighbor claimed they would lower the Chinese in baskets over the side of the cliff with dynamite to blow out the side of it because they're so steep, theoretically hauling them up before the dynamite went off. And he said occasionally on payday they wouldn't pull it up fast enough, which is horrible. But I don't believe that's not a true story as far as I know. I looked into it. But just to be accurate in this, talking about this, I did look into Cape Horn, California. You can look it up yourself. And actually it does claim that 300 Chinese actually did die right in that area, which is terrible. And, you know, I'm sure some of them weren't accidental. But anyway, that was my backyard. That's the area I'm talking about. It was real near there. And so I had some other odd experiences. I don't know if there's any connection or anything. But he always said that area is haunted. And it had a spooky feeling and everything, especially right over by the tunnel and where they did, you know, all that blasting and everything. Anyway, that's the setting for where my story takes place. And you can see in the picture of the cabin, it's very rugged woods, pine woods and whatnot. So I'll give you the actual event I was referring to in the cabin, but then actually I've had a lot of Bigfoot, I guess, type of experiences. I didn't realize it at the time. Last couple of years I've been listening to How to Hunt, Steve Isdall. And so after watching his channel, hearing all the testimony of people, then I put a lot of pieces together. So after I tell this story about what happened in Colfax, I'll talk about some other evidences, stuff I've encountered, and actually even recently I'll show you something I thought was interesting. So anyway, I built this cabin up in the mountains, and my buddy and I went up there. We left the wives at home to hang out. We're living down in the Sacramento suburb. So we're playing guitar, smoke a pot, drink a beer. It was late at night, you know, not late, 10 o'clock let's say. And we stopped to smoke some pot. I remember hitting on the pipe. And I think he's holding a match there. We're just smoking pot. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, we hear this weird noise. And it was real deep. Had like a resonance you could feel or something, at least my memory. I remember this is 40 years ago. I mean, 40 plus years ago. So my memory's not as great as it was. Anyway, it made a real weird sound. And now what I can describe it at now is Ron Moorhead's Sierra sound. I heard something similar to that. And it sounded like it was up tall. If you look at the picture, my driveway coming down is above the cabin. So this sound, the cabin probably wasn't insulated and whatnot. The sound sounded like it was up high. So I'm hearing it. And I remember I'm hitting on the pipe, and just as it starts, I started hitting on real hard, and it started glowing. And I look at my buddy, he's holding the lighter for me, and his eyes are getting big, my eyes are getting big, everything's glowing red. We got this sound. Now it sounds high. Driveway's a little bit above me, but I'm used to hearing people drive up and certain noises. But so when I first heard it, I wasn't thinking Bigfoot. I was aware of Bigfoot. But in my area, I didn't think there was any Bigfoot. I didn't believe or disbelieve. I'm one of those people that has a weird enough life and weird enough experiences, I just roll with it. So whenever we hear this thing, I think, well, it must be a demon or some damn thing like that. flying around. And then it sounded like it'd come down past the cabin. Then it sounded like on the other side, like it'd come around like this in a short amount of time. Again, it sounded kind of elevated. So I was thinking more like flying. I don't remember any footsteps. But think how quiet a bear can be in the woods and how loud a human can be. So if it wanted to be quiet, I'm sure it could walk. It's hard ground this summer, excuse me. Hard ground during the summer. Didn't hear any noise. Now, when I heard the voice sound on the other side of me, I thought the thing was circling or something. Like I thought it was maybe something airborne. And it didn't freak me out. I wish I could say it did freak me out. Heard a noise over here. Thought it circled around. Now, in retrospect, knowing what I know, I think there may have been two of them. And they were jabbering back and forth. Now, I didn't smell anything. Didn't have any sense of fear. My buddy grew up in Montana. And I'm used to being out in the woods and stuff. I wasn't a hunter, but I used to prospect, cut woods, cedar poles. Plus, I like living out in the woods, as close to nature as I can. So neither one of us had ever heard anything like that, and neither one of us got particularly scared. We walked outside trying to figure out what it was, a logical explanation. I thought maybe someone had a super loud amplifier and was up on a hill across a canyon playing games, screaming into it and stuff. We did exactly that when we were kids, getting a hold of the amplifier and making weird sounds. So something like that. So I assume it goes down to the hill, which would go down to my creek. Now, my property went down to a creek back the other side to the Central Pacific Railroad. And that's where we'd access to the Cape Horn area, walk the tracks and go out to the tunnel. There's a tunnel out there. So anyway, it was pretty uneventful other than that. And so I have a witness, and it certainly wasn't a bear or anything. At the time, I dismissed it as one of those things that go bump in the night. I mean, when you've had enough experience or your whole life or you're sensitive to those kind of things, you kind of learn to roll with it. So anyway, wasn't that big a deal to us, I gotta admit, although hey, it was strange. So it wasn't only after I started watching Steve's channel in the last couple of years and everyone reporting their experiences, I started putting two to two together. So one of the other things that happened out there, sometimes I'd come home, there'd be stuff on the deck. Like one time a dead bird in front of my doorway. Maybe a rock set on top of something. And then one of the weirder things, I found like a woven wreath. And I'm going, where that, like on a garbage can on the front deck. Or maybe there's a little potbelly stove right in front of that deck. So a picture, like there was a little woven wreath out of some, evergreen bough or something small. I think, did a realtor come by and look at my property or something? And, someone fidgeting or... So there was things like that. Also, rocks would land on that. Here's stuff hitting the roof. Go out. There's no acorns or pine cones or anything hitting the roof. Then another time something smacked, broad daylight, smacked the side of the cabin. I go running out, couldn't find anything. So I basically think I was in the territory of Bigfoot, because this happened over a period of years. Now, don't remember any bad odors other than that one noise. That was probably the only thing. Other weird things happened out there. Personally, I never got afraid, and crazy as it seems, I kind of grew up a hippie kid. I wasn't in guns too much. So I used to do walkabouts out there with no gun or anything, sometimes at night. And at the time, I had a 90-pound Doberman. He was one of a kind type dog you'll never have again, adventure dog. And he had gotten mauled by a bear, bit by rattlesnakes, he had gone through everything and stuff. But I don't think he had any problem with the Sasquatch at all, and neither did I. Personally, I think it enjoyed having us out there. It was me and my wife and my dog, and then had a baby and stuff. And you know, especially with playing music or whatnot, you know, it may have been entertained by me. Because like I said, I never got afraid, and I've always been able to go out in the woods and feel basically safe or protected. I mean, there's other reasons for that too. So now I want to talk about some other things. So I grew up in above Coloma, a town, Georgetown. We lived outside of town a little ways, a place called Canyon Creek. This is over 50 years ago, one of my hangouts. So I probably 2 miles down the creek. But one of the things, I remember going down there and finding a teepee structure. So there's a road down there, hardly any traffic back 50 years ago, old logging road, old mining roads. Certain times of the year, you know, almost no one's down there. People ride motorcycles sometimes, but do a little gold panning. So not too well hidden, I found a teepee structure. It's probably 8 feet high or a little bit bigger, kind of open in the center, but, you know, I was saying, well, who the hell would do something like this? You know, this darn hippie days or whatnot. But so it could have been camping down there or whatever. Absolutely no association with Bigfoot. I just remember what a weird structure it was. So, you know, just put that in the memory banks. Well, I used to go up and cut firewood, get a firewood cutting permit. Sometimes I just cut cedar poles for a cabin. Other thing is I'd go up and get cedar logs and old logging deck. A lot of times I leave the pecky cedar behind. Bucket up into fence posts and sell those. So I got a chance to spend a lot of time in way the hell back in the woods and you know, logging area and stuff. And a lot of times it was in the fall and the winter when no one was around anyway. So I remember going out to cut firewood, and sometimes, again, 50 years ago, I'd be walking along and I'd find, look where a tree had been broke and actually twisted. And at the time I was in construction and stuff, so, you know, looking at that I was going, what force could cause it to do that? And I remember seeing other broken trees, and sometimes, because again, I grew up in the city till I was at, let's say, you know, 13 or something like that. And then I was always in the woods. So I wasn't really familiar with what's not supposed to be. Like, so I've heard wood knocks before when I was a kid. Well, I didn't know what the hell they were. I mean, I'm a city kid. I'm envisioning a buck hitting its head against something or something like that. So anyway, that's been my experience with Bigfoot. I think they can sense your spirit, myself, and if you know, you fit in, a part of the environment, it's cool, and if you know you don't, you don't. You know, like when I've had my place in the desert, you know, I didn't have any animals or kids around. If a rattlesnake came by, I didn't kill it. Just, I mean, I was sharing the environment with it. So I think, you know, if I was hungry, I'd kill it, or I had, you know, kids around, I might. But, you know, if you be part of the environment and, you know, you know, nature senses it to a certain extent. Doesn't mean you won't be part of the food chain. Now I'm older, I'm a lot slower, I can't climb a tree like I used to, and I respect the woods a lot more than I did as a hippie kid. So anyway, that's my Bigfoot story. I have some other odd stories from out in that area and from some other places. I've lived in more than a few places out in the woods, primarily in California and also up in Nevada. But anyway, that's basically my Bigfoot story. And I got some, I'll get back to the teepees, I'm sorry. Hang in there. So the teepee structures. When I was up in Humboldt, I wrote a song about Bigfoot. I'm a songwriter, I'm not a performer, that wasn't my gift, you know, singing, but I like to write songs. So I wrote my Bigfoot song, and I wanted to film footage for it. So I'm living up in Humboldt out on the ocean. I could drive in, and there's a redwood park up there. The name's escaping me right now. But anyway, I went and filmed my video out there, and I'll play it at the end of this. You don't have to watch it. It's a music video. Got me singing, so bear with it. It's lo-fi. So anyway, I'm filming this. And it's all good and stuff. I'm in a redwood forest. It's beautiful and it's got, you know, its own vibe about it. And then I find a teepee structure. And it's right next to the road. So the road going from Redway to Shelter Cove out to the ocean. And there's people stop there all the time. It's a park. So I find this teepee structure, and it's in, well, here's the clip. So here's the clip out of the video. So you can see it. Didn't think much of it other than some, hippy dippy people tripping on mushrooms, because it was right next to the road, and someone could have camped out, in the brush a little bit or whatever. So, I didn't think much of it. I thought someone did it, tweaker or whatever, didn't have anything better to do, made a teepee, maybe to freak people out, whatever. So, put down the back burner. That was a few years ago. So fairly recently, now I'm living in Laskin County, close to Lake Alamo. I'm not out in the boonies. I have a house on the edge of the wilderness, but I'm in a small town. Well, one day I'm coming back from Susanville up Highway 36, not too far out of town. There's a start of a trailhead, I forget the name of it. And I pull in there, there's a parking lot, and I walk out a little ways, and I see this weird structure. And so it's a cross branch through some small trees, and then a bunch of sticks laid on, pretty close to a teepee. And here's a picture of it right there. I took this, I don't know, a couple months ago or whatever, and then and it's right next to the road again. And I'm going, well, shoot. And then I start studying. I'm going, who the hell would do this? If you look inside, I got a picture of inside. It's not a bed. There's no bedding in there. And all of the ones I've seen, it didn't look like anything was bedding in there. So basically, I'm going to assume that those are market territory, and that would make sense. Or a meeting spot, but I would say it's some type of marker, maybe a boundary marker or something. That might be the edge of their boundary, or maybe they put that there just because they know it messes with humans' heads. It's a way of saying we're here. And it seems like it's escalating, people's contact with those things. So I don't know what they are. I'm not interested in particularly finding out. I feel I can kind of sense them, and like other things that will bump in the night, I'm just going to leave them alone. But anyway, that was kind of, I just thought I'd want to share that. So, hey, have a good one. Bye. Walking through the forest, things don't feel too good. You stop, you hear knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood. Better learn to signal another's neighborhood. You're walking through the forest, you stop, you hear knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood. Knocks is there silent, you're praying and you should. Terror overtakes you at the knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood, knocking of the wood. Leave a different person, forget it if you could. Never want to hear again the knocking of the wood, 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 knocking of the wood.